goes along, they are also welcome. For your information, this session is also being streamed live on the South African Council of Churches Facebook page. Before we get started, I'd just like to get some housekeeping out of the way. Could I ask that everybody mute their microphones if you do not have the floor and if you are not speaking? Can I ask all of our panelists that as you have the platform and you have an opportunity to speak, please turn on your camera that those who are participating can see you and also identify who they're engaging with. And finally, could I ask that all of our media participants, as we go along the program, please make a note. Towards the end, we will have an opportunity to take some questions, and then you can direct your questions to who you'd want to direct them to. For your information, this session has been convened by the leadership of the Fellowship of Christian Councils in Southern Africa, FOCISA. FOCISA is made up of Christian councils in Botswana, Lesotho, Mozambique, Angola, Tanzania, Namibia, Zambia, eSwatini, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And we have some of those representatives on the call this afternoon. My first duty then as facilitator would be to hand the platform to the chairperson of FOCISA, who is the General Secretary of the Zimbabwean Council of Churches, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Mtata, who will take us through introductions of who is on the call and also then give us an overview of the purpose of the session. Dr. Mtata, I would hand the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Kutalani. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us this afternoon, where we are going to be giving our position as the Christian councils in Southern Africa on the situation that is developing in eSwatini. But before we get there, I would want to recognize the leadership of the Christian councils of Southern Africa, the general secretaries who are here present with us. I will just ask that each one of them is going to introduce themselves so that we know them. I will start just by giving each one of them according to the list that is here. We have Mr. Ludwig Boix. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Ludwig Boix. I'm the Acting General Secretary of the Council of Churches in Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Secretary. My apologies for pronouncing your surname.
No problem.
Yeah. I will then go to the South Africa Council of Churches.
Good afternoon. My name is Malusi Mbumluana, the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bishop. We will go to Mozambique.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is João Damião Elias, the General Secretary of the Council of Churches in Mozambique.
Thank you. Then we will go to Zambia.
Hello, greetings, good afternoon. This is Father Emmanuel Chikoya, the General Secretary for the Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ. Thank you.
Thank you. Then our Secretary, Botswana.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Chairman. My name is Reverend Gabriel Juaning. I'm the General Secretary of Botswana Council of Churches. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, the Council of Churches that is inviting us today to stand in solidarity with is the Council of Churches in Swaziland, eSwatini.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Zwanini Shabalala, the General Secretary of the Council of Swaziland Churches. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have apologies from some of the General Secretaries who are in prior arranged conferences, which will not enable them to participate at the moment. I will just want to share the program for this afternoon. I think we have already been given an introduction. I think Makumalo, you could just highlight what we are going to be, how we are going to be running this program this afternoon, and then we'll get into the focus of this meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reverend Tata. Our program is simple. There is a statement that will be read outlining the position of FOKISA on the unfolding events that are happening in eSwatini. After that, we will have about 20 minutes or so of the Q&A opportunity to allow the media to interrogate any of the points of the statement or to get any clarity on any of those points. And thereafter, we'll take a final question, wind it up, and allow the journalists to be given the opportunity to put their stories in while there's still an opportunity to. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what our next 50 minutes or so looks like.
Thank you very much. So now we will get into the statement, which I will read on behalf of the General Secretaries. And I think we can flight it here so that our colleagues who are present with us here can also follow as I read through.
Is that visible for everybody to see?
Yes, I think
it is.
It's visible, and I will read. The cry of eSwatini, Christian councils of Southern Africa urge for inclusive dialogue in the kingdom of eSwatini. The General Secretaries of Christian councils in Southern Africa are issuing this statement under the auspices of their regional organization, the Fellowship of Christian Councils in Southern Africa, FOKISA, in response to the disturbing reports on the brutal attacks on the civilian population by the government security forces, as well as the destruction of property by some protesters. The Christian Councils of Southern Africa, on behalf of the churches and the congregations of member churches, extend heartfelt condolences to the families of those who have lost their loved ones during these tragic experiences. Reports of people being shot in cold blood invoke the words of the prophet Isaiah, who speaks on God's behalf that God saw that there was no one and was shocked because there was no one to intervene, as written in Isaiah 59. This situation puts great burden on all of us as sisters and brothers of the SADC region, as if God was asking Cain when he killed his brother Abel in cold blood, "Where is your brother?" As FOKISA, we are moved by Christ's compassion to act in solidarity with the people of eSwatini, who have been calling for the democratization of their society for a very long time. Having studied the unfolding situation in eSwatini, FOKISA is calling for the immediate cessation of all forms of state-sponsored violence against the citizens. We have received no less than 44 names of people known to have died, allegedly, at the hands of the security forces. B, on the Southern African Development Community, SADC, to urge the government of eSwatini to withdraw the military back to the barracks and let police handle policing. Soldiers are essentially trained to kill and hence cannot manage public protests appropriately when and if they occur. C, the establishment of a national dialogue process, not only to address the immediate issues, but also to chart a way forward towards the establishment of a constitutional democracy. We trust that through such a process, the voices of ordinary people will be heard. Those who have been submitting petitions to government leading to the current impasse. Only a genuine national dialogue that ventilates all opinions for all options is most likely to yield a lasting solution of peace and justice. D, for the suspension of all public protests to give space for creation of the dialogue process. The FOKISA welcomes the statement by President Masisi of Botswana, the chairman of the SADC organ for politics, defense, and security, announcing that the SADC mission will be returning to the country with urgency to hold broad, inclusive consultations to gain a deeper appreciation of the gravity and scope of the developments in eSwatini. The SADC organ for politics, defense, and security has the mandate of the SADC with objectives that include, among other things, to protect the people and safeguard the development of the region against instability arising from the breakdown of law and order, intrastate, interstate conflict and aggression. Currently, the people are not protected and the development is deeply compromised due to this instability. The other objective is to prevent, contain, and resolve inter- and intrastate conflict by peaceful means. Currently, conflict is being resolved through violent means. The organ also aims at observing and encouraging state parties to implement United Nations, African Union, and other international conventions and treaties. Many international conventions and treaties are being abused in eSwatini as military arms are allegedly being used against defenseless citizens. The FOKISA is calling for the All Africa Conference of Churches, the AACC, the World Council of Churches, the WCC, and all people of faith worldwide to join us in prayers for the churches and the people of eSwatini in this time of difficulties. An ecumenical prayer solidarity with the churches and people of eSwatini will be conducted on Zoom platform this evening at 19:30 hours, featuring church leaders from the diversity of the countries represented in FOKISA. It will also feature the participation of the World Council of Churches and the All Africa Conference of Churches to pray for God's grace to console the bereaved, comfort the injured, and to accompany the nation towards healing and a lasting solution of justice and peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Reverend Dr. Kenneth Mtata, who is the chairperson of FOKISA, who has just read the statement, the position statement of FOKISA on the challenges that have been unfolding eSwatini over the last several weeks. We would now then offer an opportunity for any of our media participants who may have any questions that they would like to direct either to the chair or any of the representatives of the various Christian councils across the continent who are standing in solidarity on the matter as has been unfolded. The options for you to raise your hand or to type in the Q&A section, should there be any questions that would allow us to direct it. And if I could ask that Any journalists would identify themselves by name and by the title of their publication, as well as then direct the question to anyone in particular, or it can be answered by a number of people who may have a request to. So over the next 20 minutes or so, let's allow that conversation to happen. The statement has been read. We do understand the position of the Christian councils across Southern Africa, standing in solidarity with eSwatini and making several calls, not only to the government, but also to regional partners and also at a global level as well. If I may direct it through the chairperson, Dr. Mtata, should any of the general secretaries have a comment that they would like to add, maybe now is the opportunity as we allow the questions to roll in with your permission, Dr. Mtata.
Yes, please. I think that would be appropriate, that we get input from the other general secretaries, not least the General Secretary of eSwatini, because if there are concrete details that the participants may want to raise, I think he will also be in the best position to handle this. Please, it's open now for the.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mtata. Reverend Shabalala, would you have any comments that you would like to make at this time?
Thank you, and thank you also to the chairperson. Well, the statement that has been read is something that we worked on together, but in terms of the details of what is happening currently in Eswatini, what we have seen over the past week or week and a half especially, is something that we have never seen as a country, and something that probably we thought would not happen to Eswatini, where we will see destruction of property, and worse, see the killing of innocent people. As the church in Eswatini, we have also tried our best to intervene and to speak to different stakeholders, including the government of Eswatini, and where we are asking for meaningful dialogue, that let us sit around the table and talk, because we can see the impact this will have on the lives of people, on the economy of the country. But also, we are seeing something where the loss of life in the hands of security forces or during the riots is something that will leave many Emaswati wounded. And we know how long it takes to bring about peace and reconciliation, especially after people lost their loved ones. It becomes a long process to build peace again amongst the citizens of the country. So what I can only add now is we are looking forward to some of the processes, especially by SADC, which is why we are also asking partners to help us impress on SADC and other regional and international structures to speak to the government of Eswatini, make them also realize the need for dialogue. We hear everybody saying, as Swazis, we believe in dialogue. We believe that things are settled through peaceful engagement. But we can also see that this is just rhetoric at the moment, where there is no clear intention to sit around the table and engage. We have, however, seen that from some of the civil society organizations and political parties, there is that willingness to engage. And this is what then we ask of the government, that the government may also be forthcoming in terms of saying, yes, let us talk and sit around the table. Kutalan, let me just end there, and I'll be responding maybe if there are direct questions.
Thank you very much, Reverend Shabalala. We appreciate those words. And I think we do appreciate as well the gravity of the situation. It is quite hard, it tugs at the heartstrings, understanding that the situation is one that has never been experienced by the people of Eswatini, and the challenges therefore become harder in terms of navigating the road ahead. But given the recommendations that have been made by FOKISA and supported by other regional bodies, it is our prayer that a solution will be found as fast as possible to limit any further, human loss of life and the loss of infrastructure, loss and destruction of infrastructure. Thank you very much. Would any of the other panelists like to take a word? We are yet to have any questions coming in, but we have received a comment from Mbongeni V. Singwenya to the panelists, who says he supports the statement. It contains the mind and wishes of the people and is hopeful that FOKISA will be able to journey with the people of Eswatini and accompany SADC on the journey as well. Thank you so much to Solomon Mabuz as well, who says our prayers are with the people of Eswatini. Would any of our panelists like to make a comment?
I've been trying to raise my hand. It doesn't look like I'm successful.
Please go ahead, Bishop. You have the platform. Thank you.
Just to say that we at the South African Council of Churches have been receiving a number of calls for South Africa to intervene, and particularly the South African Council of Churches to intervene and help in the people, the churches and the people of Swaziland, of Eswatini. The truth is that part of the reason why people say that is that a lot of churches in South Africa are churches also of Eswatini. For example, the presiding bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Southern Africa is the Bishop of Swaziland and is in charge of the churches in South Africa as well. And so because of that kind of relationship, people justifiably assume that we can, as South African churches, walk into Eswatini and on our own. I just wanted to say that is actually not the case, and it's not possible. We only, as churches, work together collectively as in the council, in the Fellowship of Christian Councils. This FOKISA platform is where the SACC participates, and not outside of it. And secondly, one of the things that we've heard a lot more of as justification for some of the actions of the government of Eswatini is that there are foreign players involved, and which is a euphemism for South African, activists participating in the situation in Eswatini. We believe that the people of Eswatini are perfectly capable of handling their affairs, and that we should come alongside them and support them at their behest, as is the case in the context of FOKISA. We don't run ahead of the Christian Council of Swaziland, but rather we work under their guidance as we continue to meet as led by the chair of FOKISA, Dr. Mtata. We meet very regularly and we review the situation as guided by the context on the ground, Eswatini. I just want to clarify that that South Africa is not going to take the lead on this, even though there are lots of these calls. Maybe there are people in this platform who may also need to understand that.
Thank you very much, Bishop Mpumlwana. There are two questions that I'd like to put to our panelists. Firstly, Nelson Longesha, who is a journalist in Zambia, would like to ask, what lessons can other African countries pick from what is currently happening in Eswatini? This question is specifically directed to Dr. Reverend Tata, but the opportunity would be there for any of the other panelists to respond as well. And then secondly, Simpiwe says he'd like to check on the state of young people and how we as the youth from the SACCYF, particularly the Christian youth in Eswatini, could be involved. This is from Simpiwe Mtembu. So let's start with the first question from Nelson. What are the lessons? What are we taking out of what is currently unfolding in Eswatini? Reverend Dr. Mtata, would you like to take that?
Thank you very much. I think it's an important question because the situation in Eswatini is not a unique situation. In many African countries, we have not established a culture in which the national envisioning processes are inclusive. In many cases, nations are forced to come to the table to engage when blood has already been spilled. And for this reason, I think one of the issues that will stand out, I think that require especially the church to take very seriously, is to create this a culture, the culture of resolving conflict in a non-violent way. But this only happens when we have an infrastructure for ongoing national dialogue. There are many countries that had a very robust national dialogue processes when they were born in independence, but after that, they dismantled the infrastructures for ongoing dialogues. And when citizens want to raise issues that are genuine to contribute to nation building, the state then responds with repression and the use of force. And I think this is something that the church could contribute towards, to build a continent in which a dialogue is a means through which disagreements, but also competing visions for the future are resolved. So this is one way I look at this situation as a learning process. But the other thing I think also emerges from this is that citizens have deep, genuine desires for inclusive democratic development in the continent, but not a democratic process that is simply written on paper, but one that delivers on the livelihoods and the abundance of life for many people. And I think the many citizens are not necessarily interested in having political control and so forth. What they want is, can they put bread on the table? Are they free to exercise their rights? And this is what we are seeing in many countries. And the space for that seems to be shrinking. And I think the citizens are demonstrating that they want democratic space to be opened because this can translate to improved livelihoods. I think my colleagues will be able to answer some of and also give their views to this.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Mtata. I'd like to hand the platform to Reverend Gabriel Tswaneng from Botswana, and then we can look at the next question. Reverend Tswaneng, you have the platform.
Thank you very much, Kutelani. I just want to pick on the question that says, what lessons have we to learn out of the developments in Swaziland? We gather here this afternoon with a very bleeding heart, having seen what is happening to our fellow citizens of the world in Eswatini. And we desire that it doesn't happen to any one of our countries beyond this moment. And we pray and hope that it will come to an end sooner than yesterday. Now, the lessons that we are to pick from this development. Firstly, we need to note that democracy is very key to the people's desire in Swaziland. And every government has to know that there is power in the people's movement, especially when the government does not listen to the people will revolt, and their strength and muscle and power will be much more effective than any system of governance. So I can speak from the people of Swaziland saying, we want citizen inclusivity. We want to participate in the socio-political development of our own country. We want to participate in the socio-economic space of eSwatini. We want to be central in how Swaziland develops and is being developed from here going forward for our children and for our children's children. Perhaps the system that is currently governing Swaziland worked in the past for their parents. They are saying it may not work for us today. So they're simply calling for audience with the government. And I think the most important thing to pick from here is that each government has a responsibility to account and to listen to its people. So I think in conclusion, I would say one last thing, a peaceful resolve to any conflicting situation is very, very necessary for a government in charge. And each government must, for that matter, learn to involve other stakeholders in trying to achieve and attain a meaningful solution to its problem before it can even have people from outside stepping in to help them come out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Swaning. We appreciate that comment. Reverend Chikoka, can I ask, can I hand the platform to you and immediately thereafter recognize Reverend Shabalala? So Reverend Chikoya, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Our hearts and our thoughts, our prayers are with the people of Swaziland as they pass through this very trying moment. Just affirming what my colleagues have already said, but also just a clear lesson here is that heavy-handedness, the use of force to cling to power, to oppress people, is no longer something that will work. The passive will become agitated and they will demand for their rights. And so basically what we see are people that are saying enough is enough. We will not have our rights given to us. We have to demand for them and we have to fight for them. And a very vicious response from those that are the privileged to be in leadership. Generally, the whole region is in dire need of dialogue. The arrogance and impunity of those in office need to be changed. And those that are in office, those in the region need to learn a lesson. We don't need to have another eSwatini scenario in order for them to begin to realize that people reach a level where they don't care whether you have tankers, the best modern equipment. There comes a time when they begin to advance, and by then it will be too late. So dialogue is the way to go. And lessons for the church is that we need to begin to move away from treating issues of conflict. Move away from the conflict resolution mode to peace building. Conflict resolution is basically reactive, and peace building is proactive. So we need to make sure whether the elections or no elections, the commitment to build nations and communities that are peaceful is an agenda that is integrated in everything we do. I think that is one vital lesson for us as Fokisa or any other religious entity in the region. The issue of expanding the democratic, the media space cannot be emphasized. It was ably presented even by the chair and others. The space must be there. When people are stifled, when people are oppressed, they will find other channels to let out. I think these are vital lessons. So we need to make sure that we've been, like in Zambia, we have elections in the next few weeks. There's need to stop the tension, but a lifelong commitment needs to be there in terms of building the Zambia, the South Africa, the eSwatini Eswatini that we need to see by ensuring that peace building is a proactive and deliberate agenda that we have. So these, I think, for me, are the issues that are linked. Whatever is happening regionally, you find if they are buying police equipment, military equipment, they are similar. So if they are exchanging, the politicians are exchanging, views in terms of arming, equipping, training the security wings for their own selfish ends, we as Christian actors and other faith actors need to also begin to exchange ideas that will help us to ensure that we have peace and the kind of region that is thriving economically, socially, and for the good of all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Chikoya. Some passionate words. I'd like to give the platform to Reverend Shabalala eSwatini, and then immediately thereafter move across to Mozambique to Reverend Mohale.
Thank you. Reverend Mohale was coming in. But let me answer the question on the youth. Just to emphasize that we are where we are now, largely because the youth stood up. By standing up, I mean a situation where we have been going through a lot of challenges as a country in terms of our education sector, in terms of high levels of unemployment, where young people are the ones that are mostly affected. And the COVID-19 pandemic that led to closure of schools and disruption of the education sector rendered a lot of young people hopeless as they were looking at their future. So the petitions that were being delivered at the different constituencies or Inkunda centers were mostly delivered by young people who were not happy or who were dissatisfied with services that they are getting from the government. But also there were protests that were conducted by young people after one of them was killed or died allegedly in the hands of the police. And an inquest is still ongoing for that. There was a campaign with the hashtag Justice for Tabane, where young people, especially university students, because he was a student at the University of Eswatini, went out to the streets. So young people are critical. And if we are to see a future, I mean, even in the negotiations, we'll have to speak very strongly on what it means and what Eswatini do we want for the young people. Now, coming to working with them, as the question was from Simpiwe, the Christian youth may not have been so well organized as other youth forums across the country. But this is also a wake-up call for us as the Council of Churches, because we know that most of them are in our churches and they do participate in youth activities in their different churches. We are hoping that we can be able to also channel their thoughts and efforts as the Council of Swaziland Churches, so that we together work with them in a more constructive way, so that they again regain they regain hope on what their future holds for them. Let me end there on the question of the youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Shabalala. We appreciate your words, and Simpiwe, I hope that you have received the response you're after. Can I offer the platform to Reverend Mohale in Mozambique, and immediately after we'll cross to Bishop Mpumlwana here in South Africa.
Thank you. What can I say now is to appel our brothers and sisters from our neighbors in Swatini, and also in the government. We want to say that around the world, never we found a community or the state which solve their problems using violence. The violence bring people around, bring down our economy and kill many peoples, and we have to sit down to solve a problem. We as a Mozambican here, we are experienced. We had many wars here, you know. We had an independence war, we have a civil war, and now we have another problems of war. But all the wars, all the stages to finish, to bring peace, we need to sit down. We appeal our brothers here that have to sit down as a government and as societies. We have to sit down. We look what we can, how we can sit together. How we can bring peace for our country. It's this what I can say now to appeal our brothers and all countries here around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mohale. We appreciate those words of solidarity. Bishop Mpumlwana, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. One of the things that have been raised by Reverend Shabalala of Swatini has been the issue of unemployment and the hopelessness of young people. This is a matter, with the chair's permission, I might as well say that Fokisa is actually focused on, as part of his strategy, as we do have here in the platform, the Fokisa's Economic Justice Network. But one of the things that we are talking about is the need for regional economic integration. The reality is that the development of Johannesburg was the underdevelopment of Maseru. And that for generations, cheap labor was sourced through what was called the Employment Bureau of Africa, DEBA, that was recruiting labor, migrant labor from across the region for the development of the South African economy, which therefore is the reason why you have the South African companies functioning in the neighboring countries and never vice versa. And the reality is also that between Zimbabwe and South Africa, we have more than 90% of the world's platinum minerals. We have the gas fields of Mozambique, which are under threat with the insurgency. We have the oil fields of Angola. We've got the minerals of Botswana, South Africa, and all of these are, if only they were handled with a regionally integrated economic platform, would make a huge difference for the 350 million people in this region. And so one of the campaigns of Fokisa will be this, of persuading our governments, because as long as you don't have an integrated interest of the region for its economic development and its future, you're going to have the, if you like, localized fiefdoms of political elites that suppress those people and have limited economic opportunities for the bulk of the people. So again, this whole issue of borders and the migrancy continue to be a problem. And so it is not necessarily directly to do with the conflict in Swatini, but the fact is that there are economic realities that make people rise up and say, we can't take this anymore. And those, part of the solution will in future lie in integrating our economies and restructuring the economic architecture of the region in a way that benefits all and for all.
Thank you very much, Bishop Malusi. I'd like to just take a minute to look at some of the comments that are in our chat section. Michael Foster has said, I've heard that there is a presence of foreign troops in Eswatini. Can this be verified? Reverend Shabalala, would you be able to add any comment or verify that at all? Just moving down, there's lots of feelings of solidarity. Indeed, this is the worst calamity in the history of the Eswatini kingdom. And then Dumezweni says, what I can say is that there are people who are already skipping the border into South Africa. If perhaps the church could open its hands in South Africa to assist those in need and those refugees that may come. But in the question about foreign troops, Eswatini, Reverend Shabalala, please, you have the platform.
Thank you. This is something that is coming from both sides of the conflict, where you'll have the government claiming that there are mercenaries that were brought into the country, and they are the ones who are actually killing people. But you'd also hear it from the other side, where they'll say government brought in foreign troops or soldiers who are killing people. I think we are still at a point where we cannot say that for certain as a church to say this is what is the position. But we are hearing this, and unfortunately there is still no evidence of foreign mercenaries that are brought, because if you talk of foreign mercenaries that are brought in by those who are protesting or the pro-democracy movements, then the question is, why would they be killing the same protesters? Because the people that we are saying have been killed are those who were protesting. Then you will also hear that some of the people are killed by the business owners whose shops were looted and destroyed. Again, we still don't have any evidence on those allegations. So we hear these talks, but we are still hoping that we'll get concrete evidence to know as to whether there is an outside force in the conflict that we are seeing in Eswatini. And then on maybe adding on what Dumezweni is saying, that is a truth that we cannot deny, that when there is conflict, people will then run for safety, especially if they know that they are also being targeted or followed one way or the other. I think the plea to neighboring countries to also work with us when people go into their countries is quite valid, that please assist fellow Emaswati if they happen to come to your countries for refuge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Shabalala. The plea is heard, and I think these are the type of pleas that we've seen and heard across media and social media in the last week as well. Let me have a look. Sidwell Mkhatu has said the ecumenical church must, learning from the international collective struggle against apartheid, note that the intervention must be multi-pronged, sustained, popular and mass mobilization campaign that can include different stakeholders from different sectors. It should not just be about isolated events. And I think in agreement with that, the statement in solidarity of Fokisa is taking its particular stance in being able to support at that level. Thank you, Nelson. I'm happy that the question that you had asked has been responded to in the manner that you required. And then finally, there's a question from Mikateko who says, what is the state of Eswatini monarchs' governance and democracy look like as far as democracy is concerned? I'm not sure if I've captured that question correctly. What is the state of Eswatini monarchs' government and democracy look like as far as democracy is concerned? If I've captured it, please can you type it in so that at least we can get the exact meaning that you are after. But at this point, I'd just like to do a final check if any of our speakers would like to say anything. This would be the opportunity to do a final call and a final round for any final comments before we move across to our vote of thanks.
There is a hand from Bishop Rakoba.
Bishop Rakoba, please go ahead. We acknowledge you, give you the platform. Please unmute your microphone, sir, so that we may hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know my General Secretary has been speaking and is there, but I want to say, in addition to what they have said, I want to speak on behalf of the Gauteng Provincial Council of Churches to say we also sympathize with the people of Swaziland. We are aware of the situation that is really very worrying. And we want to say we are praying for you. In our recent meeting as a council, we really raised our concern about what we are seeing on TV and everything. So we are saying our prayers are with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Rakoba. We appreciate the words and the solidarity. Just checking if we have any final comments. Maxwell Dlamini says, just one last comment or question. Which number or contact can those escaping or running into South Africa call so that they can receive any assistance? Have there been any measures that have been put in place or structures that would allow any of the citizens who are seeking refuge and seeking help and support for who they could contact? Bishop Malusi, would you want to take that, or can I hand it to Reverend Mtata? Reverend Dr. Mtata.
I think we had not reflected on this. The humanitarian aspect of the current crisis in Eswatini is not something that we looked at as a collective, but I think this is something that could be communicated because it looks like it's an issue that is emerging. We will also be guided, I think, by the brothers and sisters in Eswatini on how they think the reception should look like. And I think Bishop Mpumloana, maybe you could give us a tentative sense of how could the reception in South Africa look like. We do not know yet the scale of movement, but if you could give a tentative sense of what a reception could look like in South Africa.
I have to say that I'm chuckling a little bit because just this week we were talking about the what needs to be done for the humanitarian situation in Mozambique. And our teams were in conversation with the General Secretary of Mozambique precisely on the humanitarian issues. And I have to say that we did not focus on the refugee situation for Swatini. And so this is something that emerging from this, we will have to attend to. I think people should know that FOCISA meets almost every day, if not every second day. There is a consultation because we take an update on an ongoing basis from our colleagues in Swatini. And this will be one of the things we will get into, partly to make sure that because we have to create those arrangements, particularly along the border areas, that we have to work with the churches in the neighborhood. Some of them come directly to Gauteng, as we have seen the chair of the Gauteng Council of Churches has been participating here, Bishop Rakoba. And so I can only say that we will get into this and see how best we can do assistance. I want to take advantage of my moment, though, to say that this event happening on a Thursday, it calls on us to recognize the campaign, the Thursdays in Black campaign, which highlights the violence against women and children, that the Council of Churches across the world do recognize Thursday as a day, particularly because many church women go together to pray on Thursdays. And we are therefore using this moment also to highlight that and to say that whenever there is conflict, women are the worst victimized, because rape and sex are used as weapons of violence in conflict. And so we do know that this is happening in Swaziland as well, with people being attacked, particularly during the curfew time after 6. And so this is another area, a humanitarian area, that needs urgent attention from all of us. But please spare thought for women that are being victimized in gender-based violence across the region.
Thank you very much, Bishop Malusi. We appreciate your words. As I hand over then the platform to Reverend Tswaneng from the Botswana Christian Council, I just want to look at the last few comments that are coming through. We have someone who had said, we'd like to thank Reverend Shabalala for encouraging us and other countries to assist our fellow people from eSwatini when they are forced to leave the country. Thank you very much, Reverend Shabalala, for that. For that encouragement. And finally, to Reverend Zondi Nemolo, who says perhaps those who might be crossing over out of Eswatini into South Africa could contact their denominational churches who have a presence in South Africa and allow that as a recommendation to start the process of refuge and support. But for now, let me hand over to Reverend Tswaneng, who will give us our vote of thanks. I had promised that we wouldn't keep you beyond 5 o'clock, so let's work towards that. Reverend Tswaneng, you have the platform.
Once again, thank you very much, Kutalani, and thank you to my colleagues, the General Secretaries of our respective countries, the Council of Churches in our respective countries. We appreciate also the presence of all the media houses who managed to take a moment out of your schedules to be here with us. In many ways, I would want to think that what was said by Bishop Mpumlwana in his parting shot really is a statement of appreciation to all of you that gives the flag of and essence of what we are doing today. We are concerned with the loss of life in Eswatini, and we appeal to our regional structures and the continental structure, as well as the global structures, to participate in ensuring that we save lives. We cannot continue to see our fellow brothers and sisters, our daughters and our sons being killed in this way. We know very well that the latest of this development, we've seen it in, among other places, in Mozambique at Cabo Delgado, and we gathered at this platform just to say this cannot be allowed. This happens, for that matter, at a very wrong time when we are also dealing with the problem of COVID. There can never be the right time to fight and to go to war with one another as a people. And I'm saying it's the wrong time because we are all putting our energy and focus on eliminating the enemy called COVID. Now, if we have to turn around and be enemies to one another, it becomes even the worst tragedy of humanity. As I thank you, my dear sisters and brothers, my colleagues, let us put our efforts and our focus in ensuring that we do not stop praying for the people of Swaziland and the people of this continent. We are stronger together. And I believe that together we will overcome this conflict and Swaziland will be better again tomorrow. The good Lord bless you, and the good Lord keep all of us now and always. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that final blessing, Reverend Tswaneng, and an extended thank you to all of our panelists, Reverend Shabalala from eSwatini, Reverend Chikoya from Zambia, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Ntata from Zimbabwe, Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana from South Africa, Mr. Ludwig Boykis from Namibia, Reverend Mohale from Mozambique, and Reverend Rakuba from the Gauteng Christian Council of Churches. My final duty is just to thank you, those of you who have participated in this conversation. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the solidarity. Thank you for the prayers. And please continue to look out for more information. The statement that has been issued that has been read will be issued immediately after this session, and the recording will be available as well, should there be any other discussions that you would like to have in further circles. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment. And I will say good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and